Welcome back to Dr. BeeWell. Today, we're feeling nice and calm, nice and relaxed. I had the pleasure of taking a yoga class led by yours truly here in front of me, my guest. Today is a special day because this is the person who actually I started my yoga journey with. This person, she has owned Three Bridges Yoga for 7 years. She's been impacting so many lives, over those 7 years. I'm excited to find out about some of the stuff before that and the lives that she was impacting before Three Bridges. But my guest today is, and I couldn't be more honored to have her, Steph Paolini.
Thank you so much, my friend. The honor is all mine. I promise.
Oh man, well I really appreciate that, and class today with you is absolutely incredible.
It was so nice to have you in there. Such good energy.
No, for real. And it's like, we were talking about it. That's everybody on this show. They know my dance story. They know that Steve was out dancing and he was trying to learn how to dance, and he got, anxious and started, felt like he was going to throw up, sometimes did throw up, then learned that maybe it was to learn to breathe could help with that. And then went home. His partner said, "You're a dummy. I've been trying to get you to yoga for 5 years." Yeah, Kayla, exactly. So Kayla had been practicing at Three Bridges Yoga for quite some time and trying to get me to go, and I just couldn't. I didn't see it because we go when we're ready and we figure things out when we're ready. But then the next day after I had this epiphany, I got myself there, and my first class was with Steph, and just it's absolutely incredible then, and it was absolutely incredible today. And I'm just so thankful for you.
Thank you so much for saying that. I know it's one of those things where I feel like the first step is always the hardest, and it's like you hear it all the time, like go to yoga, and you're like, yeah, fine. Then once you finally go in there, you're like, why haven't I been doing this my whole life?
Literally, it's isn't that kind of wild?
Yeah.
How much it's, and that kind of just listeners, that's the thing is, get into yoga, just try it one time. And it will, Steph said something to me earlier. She owns a yoga studio, taught, probably, a million yoga classes in her life. And she said to me that every class that she teaches and takes still feels like the first class that, afterwards, you still have that same unbelievable feeling from the first time.
It's so true. And I feel like that's such I think that's a thing too. Like I always think about that, beginner's mind. It's because I feel like we get jaded with certain things. Like you see it a lot or you hear it a lot, and it's almost like you don't hear or see it anymore. But if you go into things with an open mind and you just realize how good it feels just to do simple things like move your body in yoga, it's like, oh, yes. And every single time I leave and I'm like, well, I've never gone into a class and felt worse after. So why aren't I just doing this every single day? But life gets in the way. Yeah.
Well, life is hard. You said a thing today during class that was pretty profound. You said, we got to schedule. We need to prioritize our schedule, but what we really need to do is schedule our priorities.
Yeah, it's true. Somebody asked me, so I don't often do this. I feel like I teach pretty intuitively to, oftentimes, I teach in line with nature. And the other day, it was yesterday, I was talking with somebody. I was like, what is it that you need from practice? Because she made it a point to tell me that she was going to be coming into class. And she was just like, I need a little bit of balance. And I was like, wow, yeah, don't we all? And I really sat there and I chewed on it for the afternoon. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And that came to me. It's the key isn't to figure out the key isn't to look at your schedule and figure out what the priorities are. It's to look at it and be like, how do I schedule in the things that are a priority to me? And we need to be doing that more often.
Yeah, 100%. And we need to encourage each other to do that stuff too. So when somebody is saying to you hey, I'm going to go to the gym, your partner, a friend, or whatever, a colleague at work says, oh, I'm going to go to the gym before work. And don't ever make them feel bad about that. Encourage them, say, oh, that's a giddy up. That's awesome that you're doing that you're taking that time for yourself. Because it's so easy. That's the first thing that falls off.
Yep.
I don't know if it's because we're just programmed that way as human beings to take care of other people or to take care of other things. And we are so resilient that we can do these things for years and years and years until finally we realize oh shit, I need to go do yoga because if I don't, I'm going to die. And that can get what it's, if you don't move your body, that is 100% what will happen. We have all this energy inside of us and we need to expel it. We need to use it. And we need to do that, through movement.
Movement is medicine.
Movement is medicine.
How many times have we said that today?
No, exactly. And that's it though. We're going to keep saying it because it's a real thing. And like, I had such a different, like when I started my career, I'm a trained pharmacist. You know, I didn't think that at all. I thought that was like, you know, I thought that stuff was good, even though I was like an athlete and I did all this stuff and I felt, and I was, you know, intuitively knowing that like, you know, running and jumping and all this stuff made me feel so good afterwards. I still didn't, you know, like I went to school knowing that like, oh, this is the stuff that makes people feel better. This is the stuff that's really helping people. And like, I can't believe how backwards my thought were. Like, first off, you know, medicine, like, you know, normally, you know, 80% of pharmaceuticals are just being used in sick people. You know, some people who have like, you know, lifelong diseases, I wouldn't necessarily consider them like sick, but like, and though some of those drugs are great, like, you know, insulin, type 1 diabetic, that's awesome. But it's just like, that's not wellness. You know, it's not wellness at all. And like, if it's something that's as simple as being just sitting on your back and breathing and paying attention to that breath and saying like, oh, why is the breath not getting down to my, you know, to my lower right rib, but it is on the left side. Am I unbalanced?
Yeah.
You know, how should I work on this balance? You know, like, should I, you know, I need to get out into nature. I need to, you know, be patient. That's the thing for me is like, I think for a lot of people is we're also like, go, that we don't give ourselves any patience. And that's really what you need. You need to, and all the yoga teachers are always telling you like, oh, you got to settle into it, be patient, breathe into it. And it's like, you know, in your head, you have to really like learn that. You have to learn that about hearing it enough times to know what that means and to know that like, oh, that means like literally like just letting go and, you know, activating this muscle, but like completely letting go of the leg or completely letting go of the hip or whatever it is. And really, you know, bring like truthful intention to that part of the body.
It's true. And to what you said about going to pharmacy school, I think that so much of our culture, like we're taught like we have all these tools that are, you know, drugs or medicines or whatever they are. And when you get sick, this is what you do to take care of it. But instead, when you begin to look at the body as one whole unit and realize like if you take care of every single part of it, then you're more likely just to be generally healthy overall. Like I like the way that so much of our society is beginning to shift a little bit more and more into looking at the body as a whole. Like I was thinking about the other day about health insurance for whatever reason. And like how wild is it that most health insurance doesn't cover dental and doesn't cover like mental health? I'm like, oh, so our teeth and our minds are just like disconnected from our body. It's crazy. So the more and more we can teach more people that when you take care of your body as a whole, it's going to be better. Like, yay, right?
Like it would be a giddy up.
Yeah. Giddy up.
It's yeah, the dental thing to me is wild, and it's like it just goes to show where this is where there's an issue with, you know, with capitalism, and I think that there should be like a better way to, you know, to regulate. Like the dental industry has such bad regulation, so you have one guy who can charge whatever he wants. There's very little oversight, and I don't know actually what the answer is, but I know that everybody in the United States, the most, you know, developed country in the world, everybody should have unbelievable teeth.
Yeah.
People shouldn't be getting dentures. People shouldn't, you know, from a young age, they should be, you know, being taught. And this is the thing I'm sensitive about. You know, my teeth are not great. I'm having to fight. Well, they're nice. You know, they're okay.
Lovely teeth.
Well, they're lovely, but it's like I have one missing here. You know, I have one missing here, and I have another missing here. And it's like I always have to, you know, I have to fight. I have to, you know, get that. And it's like I wish that hadn't been the case. You know, I wish that I could, you know, that I could just go and get all the work that I needed. You know, I probably need, you know, $30,000 worth of work in my mouth. Right. You know, between root canals and implants and all this different stuff. And like I understand that it costs money for this stuff, but it doesn't cost $30,000. Right. Exactly. And so we need to figure out a way to subsidize this better for people so that they can. Like it is a whole system. The mouth is what you ingest food into. It's what everything goes through. You know, I mean, I should say everything because we do absorb things in other ways as well. But you know, eating is just come on. Like you need a healthy mouth. You need a healthy mouth.
Have you ever read the book Breath by James Nestor?
No.
So read this book, and it talks about. It's so interesting. It's talking about the way our kind of modern society breathes and how. Like the deep impact of what happens when you breathe out of your mouth consistently, mind blowing. We're the only civilization in society, meaning like over the course of the last 100 years or whatever it might be, that has ever needed like things like braces, that has needed things like dentures and all that. And they attribute it all to being a nose breather versus a mouth breather.
Wow.
Read it.
Wow.
Incredible.
Breathe by
James Nestor.
Okay, awesome.
Fantastic read.
cool, and we'll put it in the show notes too.
Put it in.
I love it. Like this is a intimate thing that I've started to learn about the breath is and this is gonna, this might sound a little out there, but like it's so specific. And if you actually give yourself patience and pay attention to your breath, you can learn like so much that you have like 100 or 200 different types of breaths in your toolbox that you can use. Like a thing recently that I found out is I'm always trying to draw air, and when I'm drawing air from the outside of my nostrils here, and I'm making that noise, that's almost like a stress breathe, and you're forcing air in, and you're stressed because you think your body needs oxygen, and normally if I draw breath from here, from this part of my nose, it's like in this part of my nose, the bottom part of my nose isn't moving at all. It's like, oh, that's the therapy, that's the medicine, and it's that small of an intricate little flip that forever, and if I don't pay attention to it, I breathe the other way. I breathe the way that makes me anxious. Yeah, if you're having trouble, like I just said, that if sometimes getting that concentration to breathe out of your nose, just put the tongue on the roof of your mouth, and it forces you to do it. Wow.
Breathe is how you live.
How you breathe is how you live. I just think it's amazing that you have these little baby, synchronicity, little baby, whatever, that are like specificities that just change everything about the way you feel, everything. So tell me though, so 7 years you've been at Three Bridges, and that's how you owned a yoga studio, but I don't know much before that. So, so what brought you to the yoga? What brought you to this career path?
Yeah. So prior to teaching and subsequently owning the studio, I was a middle school math teacher.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was a middle school math teacher, and I've been a yoga practitioner for probably, how old am I? I've been practicing for probably 20 plus years. And the way like my math brain worked was like, I know that I feel better when I leave yoga, but I'm like, I want to know why. Like give me all like the nitty gritty. So I went and did a yoga teacher training, and I did a yoga teacher training literally just to learn. I was like, I want to like give me the good stuff. Like, I want to know why this works.
Yeah.
So when I did my training, I was in San Francisco, and we had to journal pretty much at the beginning of every single day. And they'd always ask us a question based upon whatever we had learned, in the previous session. And it would be like, well, how would you apply this when you're teaching? So I have this full journal, and the beginning line of every single journal entry is, I will never teach a yoga class, but if I had to, and then I went and did my whole journaling.
And on every page it says
single page, I've got a journal chock full of all these notes. And because like I said, when I went, I was like literally just doing it because I wanted to know why. I came back home and I was like, that was really cool. Like, I like that. And I was like, maybe I'll start teaching a little bit. And then one thing led to another, and I was teaching a couple classes a week, and then I was like, I want more. And I started teaching more and more and more. And then I had been teaching at Three Bridges Yoga. Bjorn was the previous owner of it. He and his wife are incredible human beings. They started the studio in 2011, 12?
I think, 2011, 2012.
2011.
2011 is what it said online.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for being much more knowledgeable.
Well, no, I just have to do my due diligence. That's all, Yeah, of course.
So yeah, he started in 2011, him and his wife, they're lovely. And they wanted to move out of the seacoast, and they didn't want to sell it to kind of like a big conglomerate, and they wanted to keep it like in the family, so to say, not that we're related. And we were able to work it out, and I bought the studio, and yeah, I've officially owned it longer than he did, which is so funny, but we still keep in close contact. He's a lovely human being. Yeah, so that was like the brief pre-Steph as a yoga teacher, yoga studio owner.
Yeah.
So I have no business training whatsoever.
Yeah.
I have an undergrad in criminology and law and a master's in education. And here we are.
And here we are. Well, you want to know what though? That's like so inspiring, right? Because you're a pioneer in something, and that is with me. I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm trying to go away from something that I got a degree in, but also taking that degree. I'm sure you use your math skills quite a bit, running your business, and also getting into yoga and having that different type of math brain. which is not the way my brain works.
And I also think like just like learning in general, like it doesn't matter what it is that you're learning, but like the more and more that you flex your brain and learn about different things and different subjects, I feel like it's all applicable. Like, especially when I was a math teacher, kids used to always say, when am I going to use this? I'm like, well, you might not use this specific skill, but you're going to use the skill of problem solving. You're going to use the skill of like perseverance and making your way through and figuring out a solution to a problem. And that's life skills. Like, you need to know how to do that.
Yeah, you got to practice it too. And maybe for some people that might not be a math problem, that might be something else in that, but also that might be a math problem. And you should also be able to do all these things in your head. Like I said, I didn't love math. I didn't
Really?
think, yeah, I didn't love it. I mean, thing is you know what, there was times where I really did love it. I just don't think that I was it didn't come naturally to me. And I don't think that I had necessarily the right support or the, in high school when I was, when I was a student, I was able to get by in terms of I graduated like 40th in my class or something. I went to pharmacy school. I got into some other good schools, but I just got by, I just did my thing and did as little work as possible. So I wonder if I with support, maybe I would have learned, a little bit differently in terms of and of course this is on me. I'm not blaming anyone else.
Your middle school math teacher is going to call you up after this.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I love it. Just call me and say, hey, Stephen, this is
my best. You
right.
just weren't paying attention.
You just weren't paying attention. Exactly. I'm sorry. Sorry about it. I'm sorry, Miss Weeks.
Do you remember her name?
Miss Weeks, yeah. I remember a lot of my teachers' names.
I love that.
Yeah.
Can I tell you, one of my students called me at the studio last year. My heart. Phone rings. I'm sitting there and I pick it up. Good afternoon, Three Bridges Yoga. And there's a pause on the other end. And I'm like, hello? And then I hear Miss P. And I knew immediately who it was. And I was like, I won't say his name because I don't know if you're supposed to do that or not, but whatever. And he was like, I cannot believe that you remember me. I'm like, sweetheart, like, how would I not remember you? And he had looked me up and found me. And he said that he was like, do you remember? He said, can you guess what I'm going to school for right now? Because he was in college. And I paused and I was like, you want to do something in sports, like sports broadcasting. And he was like, how did you know that? And I was like, in 6th grade, you wrote a paper about being a sportscaster. And yeah, so he's living his dream.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like that, and that's the thing is we need to realize is like we're all impacting people every single step of the way. Yeah, like literally, man, like every single step of the way we're impacting people, and this is feel good about that stuff. Like, even though it's so hard for us, like you right now, like feel amazing about that because you did such an amazing thing and you're doing amazing things for so many people. And maybe you don't get to always feel that because life is just go, 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 go. And you so just take the time right now to realize the impact that you have on people. It's incredible.
I think everybody should, Oh, all around.
I love it. What?
But I think we sometimes forget, like, I feel like sometimes you think that you live on an island, or more often than not, like you remember things that are negative, and like your brain is wired to do that. It's for safety. Like it's so you remember like, oh, that's a hot plate. Don't touch it again. But you don't often remember like all the accolades that you get, and maybe they're silent. And it's important to remember that like each person you come in contact with, like you are creating some impression on them in some way, shape, or form. And it's like baseline, like just keep it neutral. But if you can like raise the vibration and do like small things, like opening up a door for someone or, whatever it is, all those little small acts add up, and it makes people like, how it is. Like, if you ever been in line, like getting like to-go coffee or something, and the person in front of you had like thrown down the money, and it's like, oh, your coffee's paid for. Like, it's the tiny little thing. You're like, oh, and then like you're nicer for the whole rest of the day. Like, imagine if everybody did these like little tiny things.
Yeah. Well,
Impact.
Yeah, and I think that it's I think people are doing them, and I think that we can keep doing more of them. And that's the thing is like right now we're at a time period in society where we're at like an inflection point, we're either going to go one way or we're going to go the other. And I have a feeling that it even though the doom and gloom is always over us and the gray clouds, it's like, man, humanity is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we together, the togetherness, the oneness, I think that it could be, we could make it even better. And it could, we could make this place that we all reside in together, the best possible environment for us, for the animals, for everybody. And I think that there is a reality that where we're heading towards that.
I couldn't agree more. It's like it's really easy to focus on the things that might be, dark or sad or heavy. And I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying that like you shouldn't pay attention to that, because it's important too. You need to know what's going on in the world to do the good things to make it better. But like, I really think that overall people are good. Like, I think that people have good intentions and good hearts, and they want to do good by others.
Yeah, they do. And like at the end of the day, even like the worst of the worst people, like they're just scared, hurt individuals. Maybe there's a small percentage out there who's like, completely vile and bad, but I don't even know if I can believe that. Yeah. I think that they're just the most hurt.
It's true. Hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, just to speak to what you're saying, the thing that I've been saying lately, and I'm a very like, non-religious person, just in terms, I'm a very spiritual person, but just a non-religious person in terms of like, I don't think that, organized religion, if it works for you, that's cool and that's great and it's a giddy up. But just for me, I think that it's like, it was just invented by people who didn't like one rule and wanted to change this or change that and kind of have power and control over others. But the, I've been saying it a ton lately is, faith over fear.
Yeah.
Like anytime something goes wrong, it's just like, okay, well, have faith that this person wasn't trying to fuck you over. Have faith that this was, this just sometimes this stuff does just happen, and also like, don't be afraid of it. Like, you just have to go through it, because like that, the only way is through.
Yeah.
Like, just like with a yoga class, the reason you feel better afterwards, there's no fucking drug in the world. I've taken them all, that's going to make you feel that way at the end of a yoga.
Yeah,
it's going to make
it's true.
It's not possible. The only way is through.
Yeah. And to speak to your point, my mother has in my lifetime said many amazing things, but one thing that she said to me that really stuck with me when I was a teenager, something had happened and I was sad or whatever. And she said, Steph, I firmly believe that people do the best with what they have when they have it. And if you look at weird interactions or whatever it is, and if you just look at them and say, wow, like they did their best, I think it takes away that like sting sometimes. Like sometimes people's best isn't maybe necessarily what you're hoping for, but if you look at it through that lens, it might give a little bit of compassion.
Yeah, it might, like 100%. And like, people, if you're feeling a certain way about like, especially like your parents, like this is a great thing to do with them. They were scared, hurt people who went through their own experience. And you might be, I just had a child, so I'm on my own journey now, and I'm trying to do everything as best possible based on my experience. My child's still going to feel a certain way about me when he grows up, and I just need to be able to give him the best foundation so that he can see me in the same light, that I was a human being trying my best to just do what I could for my family. Because that's the way that I see my parents. Not everything was perfect and, whatever. And sometimes things were fucked up, but like, and that's with everybody's family, I think. But they were, they were doing the best that they could. And I'm here today, and it's an amazing thing. So love your parents and love your family and love, the people in your life, and just know that people are trying the best, that they can.
I think Emmett's going to be pretty psyched when he grows up. He's going to be like, my parents are cool.
I think so.
Yeah. I'd say so.
I think he's a cool little dude. He smiles. He loves us so much. And he just, I really do hope so. I want to just give him the best chance at everything. My dad was really, was able to support me and stuff, and still supports me and stuff. And I just want to make sure I provide that, for him as well.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, that's exactly, we will.
I got faith.
Yeah, that's it. And that's like, we're talking about the kids and we're talking about this. This is like, this is how we're going to change the world. As if we love our children and we love our kids, and if not just our children, because it literally takes a community, it takes a village. And if you love other people's children, and we're not just like, we're not just all this separated, and we think that, oh, this person's different, this family's different, so we don't associate with them, or, they have a different opinion. No, different opinions are good.
Yeah.
Get that stuff together so that we can figure out what's really going on.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's like different opinions are good. Like, stop trying to make everybody think the same way that you do. Like, if you're having a conversation with somebody and all you're looking to do is like share your side, then you're not hearing what they're saying and you're not learning from what they have to offer. And I think every single person in this world has something really true to themselves to offer, which has a lens that nobody else has. And that's important. Like, people's voices should be heard.
Yeah, they have to be heard. And you also, like, people grow and people change. So like Steph Paolini was a person who wrote, I'm never going to teach a yoga class multiple times. And Steve said a ton of different things in his life, that he wasn't going to be able to do or accomplish or whatever. Just didn't think that he wasn't, that I am this way. I am this type of person. This is how I'm going to live my life. And then you find out, oh, maybe that's not the case. We all grow and we all change, and that's an amazing thing.
We should be, right? Like that's like one of the definitions of being alive, right? You're constantly growing and changing and evolving, and it's almost like this like continual refinement to become exactly who it is that you are meant to be.
Yeah, be who you are.
Yeah,
that's who we're gonna start a Be Who You Are campaign.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what it's like really all about. Is just like figuring out your authentic self and being who you are, because we all have so much to offer. And that gets lost. And I think that is a little bit lost right now.
Yeah.
But just that the ability to the differing opinions and knowing that like, oh, I had this opinion before, and now I'm a completely different person. So that means that if I have this, I shouldn't just be so set in my ways and so set in my opinions. And like, I also definitely shouldn't be set in these opinions if someone else is telling me to think this way. You need to go in, you need to do some yoga. You need to, take that patience to figure out how you actually feel about things.
It's true. You see, and it's tough because, I love like being able to do what I do. I really like, I can't tell you like how much I love it. Like it's such a wonderful thing to wake up every day and be able to like, oh wow, I get to go out and teach yoga. And I take it very seriously, but it's like on the collective, you can look around a room and you can see how difficult it is for people to just sit still. Like it's this distractions and people are always moving like really quick from one place to the next. And it's uncomfortable to be still because like when you're still, that's when you really just have to listen to what's going on inside. And most people are like, like, no thanks. I want to like run from that, numb it, drink it, whatever you want to do to like escape from how you're feeling. But if you do something like literally as simple as yoga and learn to just sit there and be with yourself, that is wildly powerful.
Yeah, it's like people were not, stillness is like when you talk about like meditation and like the connection to the one and connection to each other and the oneness, like that's found through stillness. So like all this, like people have like spiritual experiences and they have religious experiences. Like, is it science? Is it religion? And you kind of, you hit on this earlier, like you wanted to get into it and figure out why this, like the neuroscience of yoga and why this is happening this way. And I love that stuff because I think that it's amazing what happens when somebody, they've done tons of studies out there where they've, after or before they're checking people's brain scans from a yoga, and just what happens is breathtaking. So science and like meditation. So you have these experiences that people have had forever, whether it's a religious experience, and basically they've found like, the greatest monks or the best nuns, but also the monks and the all the spiritual leaders and every, the highest priests, and the like praying is a form of getting still. Meditation is a form of getting still. Yeah. And that stillness is how we can connect to, to each other. It's like you have some yogis out there, there's like, like history, there's facts that this has happened, like stated scientific studies where yogis have put themselves into this stillness and they have stopped their heartbeat, undetectable, for 7 days.
7?
Yeah. So like, they go into a room, they get into this. Yeah. And I will, I don't know that off the top of my head, but we will put it in the show notes so people can say, and then maybe we'll talk about this. But yeah, that it was a yogi, and it might even have been longer than 7 days. It was absolutely incredible. I wish we could, I could find this right now. But there is a great book about stillness and about this and about religion and it's called the Science of God, and it's by the Physics of God. The Physics of God, and it's by Joseph Selby. The Physics of God by Joseph Selby. Yeah, you have to read it because he just talks about like how we're like quantum physics. We're gonna figure out the God thing, and we're gonna figure out the oneness thing, and like why we evolved, with the consciousnness thing. We that connection. We will figure it out. And in that book, he talks about a lot of these studies, and I didn't believe it at first, like the researcher in me. So I ended up like going back and making sure that this yogi, did do this. And they don't know, like, because it was a long time, not a long time ago, but I think it was in like maybe the 90s or so. The technology that they were using for his heart rate, so it's like they don't think that his heart stopped, but they just got it to a point where it's undetectable from the machine, and it's Like, that's just amazing that you can have that type of control over your body and your emotions, and it's from the stillness. It's from
bingo.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like I say this all the time in my classes. It's like what you're trying to do is find a little bit of space between emotion, like that thing that like is the knee-jerk reaction within you, and then the action. And like the bigger we can create that space, I feel like the better we act. It's like when you like squeeze a tube of toothpaste and it all comes out, like you can't put it back in. Like so when you feel something and you're like, I want to yell or I want to like whatever it is, and then you can take a moment and pause and get like that little bit of space, like that's when we learn to act better. So when you go off of that like automatic response and you're like, I'm taking control over how I feel, what's going on inside, and reacting appropriately to what's happening in this moment. Because like we've all been there. Like typically when stuff like hits the fan and like you yell or like whatever it is, it's never about like what's going on. It's like all the other stuff that's built up throughout the day, and it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. And like the better we get at being like in tune with, okay, like what's actually going on right now? Okay, like I dropped a glass in the kitchen. Like this isn't life or death. Like exhale, clean it up, and like move on with your day.
Right. Faith over fear.
Faith over fear.
It's what it comes.
T-shirts.
Yeah, for real. It's like it's what it comes down to, you know, because it's your nervous system. And it's not your body's fault. It's not your fault. You're just trying to survive. So like when that knee jerk reaction is, holy shit, I need to survive because like this happened. And that's because, you know, a long time ago when we maybe dropped a glass or we made a noise, we had to actually survive. That meant like we were out hunting or predators or something, and that stuff is all still within us. So as we like transition into this, you know, this new world, we need to learn how to control this stuff and know. And I think that is the way, is the space, is giving it, because that's what you always regret it, right? Like when you yell at someone or you
never felt good about that.
You've never
like I was psyched I screamed at that person. Like that's never a good thing.
Go home, and maybe there's some people like this that did the most hurt.
If you take the pause and you're like, they effing deserve it, like
no, that's the thing right there. Sometimes
just think about it before.
Exactly. Sometimes right, you might still go down the same path. You might still be having an argument, but your nervous system isn't all jacked up and you're not in that flight or fight response. You're actually making a true conscious decision about what you're doing moving forward.
Yep. It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
Yeah. And it's amazing how like yoga teaches us how to do that, right? Yep. Like it teaches us in the moment, because like a lot of times you're in a pose and you're pissed. Yep. You're like, I can't get this, or it's hurt, it's this. And then you just
do anything for a breath. Like you're fine.
Yes. You can do anything for a breath. And then you learn I can do anything for 2 breaths. And I can also do this while I'm doing this, and I can go even further. I can even stretch this, 10 times further than I thought I could.
Exactly. It's like figuring out, like, I think we all think that we have a particular edge, and I feel like it's much higher than we give it credit for. It's like we all think we're going to break if this happens, and it's like, no, it's not. You can take a moment. But what I always think about, and it's so interesting because I feel like we oftentimes look at like the way we feel as a product of what's going on in society right now, meaning like everything's like really go, go, go. Like there's, not to blast him on this, but I looked at my partner the other day and he was watching Netflix on his phone while flipping through Instagram on the same screen. I was like, what's happening here?
Right.
He's like, oh, I'm watching Seinfeld. And I was like, well, what's up? Like, how did you even do that? I'm like,
right.
Why would you even want to do? And I think that like we look at the way our brains work and we're like, I can't sit still because everything's so busy. But like you look at something that's as ancient and as yoga, and it's 5,000 years ago. I think one of the first lines from the Yoga Sutras was, yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. Like somehow we wrote that 5,000 years ago, and it's like, hey, so it's like the reason why your mind is busy isn't because of what's going on. It's because you're human. Like that's like what your mind does, and like you have to learn how to control it, or it can control you. But I mean, I would certainly rather the former than the latter,
Yeah, that is really cool. And not to put my partner on blast, but she's always telling me that like, and I'm always like, hey, the world is different right now. It's worse than it's ever been. And we have to, but she always says, Steve, things have always been challenging. Human beings have always faced challenges. And hey, it might be worse right now because I do think that. I think that we're going through a really challenging point right now. And I do believe that we're going to come out on the other side of it, 100% better. But I do think that but she's right. And it's
true.
This guy, he knew this, back then he said, and that's the whole thing, right? Yoga, from my understanding, we use it as a movement practice and to get into that. But true Western yoga was, or Eastern yoga is we did yoga so we could meditate.
So that's the whole thing. So the poses came second. So what yoga was meditation. So the word asana that you've probably heard a million times, like, and it's at the end of every Sanskrit word, like Adho Mukha Svanasana or, Bhujangasana, that word right there, we often translate it to physical movement, but that's not what it means. It means seat. So like what they were trying to do was figure out how to get people to sit still. This was 5,000 years ago. And then even then they realized like, well, crap, people are really not good at just like sitting down and being like, so like, how do we get them there? And that was the movement practice. So it was like, all right, you got to move your body. You got to like shake off all the stuff that you have. And then you can sit there and meditate for a few minutes. And that's where the practice came from. It was all these years ago, somebody being like, we need to learn how to chill out. Like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah, I think that's so cool. I think it's like thank you for the people who, the universe thing. Great job, guys. Yeah, right, exactly. It's always the same. We're human beings. We're always, we're not that different than we were 5,000 years ago. Like we're very much the same, and we need to keep getting back to that, like not like use all the technology that we can, use it in a good way. It's great. It's awesome that we could talk to each other and we can connect, and that's an amazing thing. But don't watch Netflix and scroll Instagram at the same time.
Sorry, Nick.
But it's like, it's not just Nick, it's everybody, and it's like they're just trying to get out of themselves because because for the second they, like you said, they're so busy, they don't know. Yeah.
And it's like, it's that like, you do all these things to distract yourself just from like, because like, let's be real, like sitting still and like figuring out the stuff that's going on upstairs in your mind, like that's not super comfortable. But like the only way, just like you said, it's not around, you got to go through. And once you do that, I think all that the practice of yoga is really trying to do is like teach you how to live like a happy and peaceful life. Like, isn't that what everybody wants? Like,
yeah. That's what it is. Teaching you how to live a happy and peaceful life. How to be okay with, with opinions that change in your life and opinions that change with others, and just growing with them and growing with yourself.
Literally everything around you is always changing. And like, rather than trying to like plow your way through the storm, like if you can learn to like just like ride those waves,
get into the vibrational frequency.
Yeah, like you feel better when you're calm. Like nobody feels good when they're like all jacked up and angry.
Yeah, they don't. Everyone feels really bad because cortisol is just pumping through your body.
Yeah.
And cortisol is not the one that feels good. It helps and it's necessary sometimes, but it's not dopamine.
Yeah.
That's what we want. And go do a yoga class and you're going to be, flooding your body with dopamine.
Yeah.
So, you've taken the practice to, I know that you teacher train there as well, which is a really cool thing.
I think we just finished the 6th group.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. So how many students total would you say?
I bet it's probably upwards of 100-ish in the Seacoast that I've taught. Yeah.
See, that's amazing because like now you're that really like it make it it exponentiates it by it's now you have so many people who are out there. Like I've probably taken classes with people who, I know I have just at your studio. I definitely have people that you've trained, but also people who just didn't stay at your studio and then have taken that practice elsewhere and have gone somewhere else. I think that's really cool.
And I think it's awesome. Somebody asked me a couple of years ago, they're like, aren't you worried about leading all these teacher trainings and like sending all these teachers out into the world? Like, what if they open up a competing studio, and what if they work at another studio that you don't own? And I'm like, oh, am I going to be upset that like more people are doing good things through yoga? Like, no, like I don't look at anybody in the Seacoast as a competitor. Like I'm a huge fan of like community over competition. Like we're all in it together. And I think the better each person does, like the better we all do. So I'm like all for it. I'm like, go out, teach at my studio, at someone else's studio. I don't care, but teach.
Yeah.
You don't have to teach in a classroom setting. Like it's just the way you interact with people. Like you're teaching people all day long, like how to act in just like very casual conversations. It doesn't have to be in like a confined space of a yoga studio.
That's really cool that you just said that, because we have an episode out there with a therapist, and her name's Rebecca Simmons, and she says her her approach to therapy is a patient-centered approach, a client-centered approach, and that means that basically one of the biggest things that you're doing for that for that person is you're modeling a healthy nervous system by just being in the room with them. So because you have like, sometimes, people like just by being in the room with you, just chatting with you, you immediately make me more calm because that's just your essence because you've been teaching this yoga for so long. Yeah, of course.
Like how we act just teaches others how to act. Like, when you're around somebody that's calm, like you tend to be a little bit calmer. When you're around someone that's all like, you tend to be a little bit more excited. And it's true. Like we get to every single interaction that we have with everybody is this like beautiful opportunity to be like, hey, be good.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, be good. Because and that's what I'm always trying to do, and because I'm always I know that I have like an effect on people. Like I'm just a presence for some reason, whatever it is. So like I'm always trying to make sure that I am living my best life for it's for me, so I can feel the best about myself, but it's cool to see the effect that it has on other people, and also the effect that other people have on me.
Yeah, it's true. Like I feel like when you're in your presence in particular, you have like a zest or like a vigor for life that's like it's palpable, and it's so good. Like it's so important to see people doing things that they enjoy and like happy in their life because it permeates everything around them.
Yeah, it's cool, and I appreciate you saying that to me. I really do, because it's not always easy. It's not, and sometimes it's when you do want that, you need to, articulate it to people when you do need space for yourself. Sometimes when you can't be that person, when you don't want to be that zest person, and somebody's expecting it from you, that can be a challenging thing.
Yeah.
So just knowing how to articulate and communicate with people is like the most important thing, or at least that's what I'm learning. At least.
Yeah, for sure. I've had to learn that because I'm like such a yes person. Like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then I have to be like, I've learned, especially over the last couple of years, like I call myself, this is probably not a psychological term, but I've coined myself a forced extroverted introvert because I feel like in my job, like I need to be extroverted and like talk to people, but like left to my own devices, I'll just be at home by myself.
Right.
I'm a very like quiet person. I love my alone time. I feel like I need it in order to do the other things that I do.
Yeah, I it's so funny you say that, forced extrovert introvert, because I like it. I can relate with it. I'm not sure of it probably as much as you, because I do get energy from people, and I do like to go out and be with people, and I get energy from them, and but also when there's times where I need to be an introvert and to go inside and to just not inside but inside myself. I can be outside by myself.
Yeah.
And that's why that's what yoga really taught me how to be comfortable with, because I don't think that I was necessarily like just comfortable with it before. I just didn't know how to be with myself or sit with myself. And then once I learned how to do that, I said, whoa,
I like my company.
Right. This is some magic.
Good. You should. It's important. Like we spend so much time getting to know the world around us and the people around us. Like, why aren't we spending an equal amount of time getting to know like the world that lives within us? Like, how is that overlooked?
Right. Yeah, 100%. Cool. So now, so you do the teacher trainings, and that's a really cool thing that you're doing over there. And you do retreats as well.
Yeah. So I typically do 2 international a year, and then 4 local ones. So I'll lead one with a dear friend of mine, Sarah. So she's the leader, she's the facilitator, and I come in and assist her. So I'll teach a couple classes, and I'll go around and do like physical hands-on assist, as well as just like assisting her, as a teacher throughout the course of the week. And then I lead one through the studio that's just, my retreat. And then I do 4 local ones. Have you heard of Al Noba?
No.
Al Noba is like the most beautiful place 20 minutes away from Portsmouth that you've never been to. I think they own 600 acres of land. And I'm trying to think, what month are we right now? May. So I'm going there in August, and it'll be our 5th time leading retreat there. And it is absolutely beautiful. It's all hiking trails, and they have things like rope courses, which I don't know how to do that kind of stuff. But so I go there, and it's, when I was leading retreats, it was probably a couple years ago, I was like, this is amazing. Like, it's an absolutely beautiful way to teach people in a different setting from the studio. But I also know that taking a week off and flying somewhere that's not accessible, whether for, financial reasons or, whatever else it is. And I was like, it would be cool if we could do like an immersive here in like the seacoast. So I went around and I found Al Noba, and I went there. I was like, oh my God, this place is gorgeous. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we're never going to be able to afford this. And the woman that's director over there is fantastic. Took me around, like showed me the homes that you can rent, and gorgeous yoga studio space and like all the hiking trails. And we made it work for the pricing. They're so awesome. And yeah, so we do that 4 times a year. And it's teaching on retreat. I think I shared with you earlier, like I used to be anti-retreat, which sounds like maybe I shouldn't say that, but I used to be like anti-retreat because I was like, what I should be teaching people is how to practice yoga in a setting and then take it into their daily lives. I was like, it's not something that should be taught in like this vacuum, because like you can do anything in a vacuum, you know. It's like, oh yeah, if I'm being fed really good food and I don't have to get up for work and I'm just like doing yoga twice a day, like, oh yeah, that's cool. But like, how do you live? Like my whole thing is like yoga is meant to be lived on a daily basis. So I was kind of like, man, I'm not into yoga. Then a couple years ago, Sarah asked me to teach with her, and I respect her so much. She's a brilliant teacher. If there's anybody that I know that like lives their yoga, it is her. She's fantastic. So I went and I taught with
Sarah Olafson.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Queen.
She's
like,
cool.
The woman's rad. Like she's fantastic. And I went and I assisted her, and I just saw the transformations that took place in people throughout the course of the week. And I was like mind blown. I was like, wow, this is powerful. This is impactful. And they're able, I guess I was looking at it like we were talking, like keeping your mind open. You have one set of opinions and then you learn and you see and you evolve and you change the way you think about it. My thinking was kind of like, oh, all right, it's in a vacuum and that's how they're learning it. And it's like, hey, what's so wrong about learning something in a vacuum? And then you get to immerse yourself in it and you get to feel how your body feels when you eat good food, when you're not binging on alcohol, when you're not like doing when you're doing all these good things to make your body feel better, and then practicing yoga in a consistent way. Because let's be real, like most people, like even myself, I have a studio. I can't practice twice a day. That's just not feasible. So feeling how good it feels to do the right things with your body, hydrate, eat green food, like move your body in ways that feel good. You leave and you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to let this high die. And then people leave retreat and they go home and they continue practicing. And it's such a wonderful way to connect with people. Like, let's be real. Like, even you and I have this like wonderful opportunity to chat this afternoon. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to teach. You're probably going home to Emmett. And like, it's like, boom, boom, boom. You're always moving. And like, the conversations that are able to take place with people when they don't have those like bookends and cell phones going off and they're able to like look at each other in the eye, it's like, it just doesn't happen anymore. And I think like even kind of like dovetailing back to what we were talking about before, it's like when you're talking to somebody, whether it's like over text or over social media, it's like you can almost have like one way to speak to them. But if you were looking them in the eye, like maybe if it was something saucy, like you wouldn't say it to them. And it's like, the more and more people can connect like that, you get to that idea that you were talking about of oneness. It's like, all right, well, maybe I'm not going to be a jerk because I'm looking at this person and I see humanity in their eyes and I get to like space between emotion and action and I get to like actually pause and be like, okay, like I'm going to, and I think people learn that on retreat. They learn to like get back to the basics almost.
Yeah, I think, I love every bit of this because I think it comes down to, and I love that you're providing this for people. I think that it comes down to the space, the patience, right? Like, because the nervous system, it's just constant go. And so like, even when we think like, okay, I'm going to go take a yoga class, I'm going to take a yoga class every day this week. And that's going to be better for you than not taking the yoga class. Yep. That's for sure. But you're still not like necessarily slowing down where you can have those, you get to talk to somebody, you get to talk to a teacher for something, for 5 minutes after class. It's still like this teacher has to go, I have to go, I have other stuff to do. So like that conversation isn't going to be as, as genuine or deep. Exactly. It's still genuine, but it's not as deep. Exactly. And that's actually what I love about this is this thing that I'm doing here is when people come in here, we're having a conversation. Yeah. We're having a real conversation that they're not looking to, they might be somewhere else, but like, to keep up with me, they usually have to be pretty fucking present. So it's, yeah, exactly right. Keep them going, baby. Giddy up.
But it's so funny. Like I saw the other day and I don't know if it was a joke because, well, we'll leave it at that. Like, I don't know if it was a joke because I think sometimes I see things and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's true. Like I thought the onion was real forever and it's not. But I saw something the other day that was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could get people together like you do on a podcast without phones so they're not disrupted and just like, but like not record it? And I was like, that's called a conversation. Like that's what people should be doing anyways. And I'm like, wow, like we've really, and I don't want to like go down into like everything on technology is bad, but it's also like, it's finding that balance of being like, hey, guess what? Sitting around with somebody without a cell phone and without a microphone, like a podcast, is just a really lovely thing to do. It's called a conversation.
Yeah, it's called a conversation, and it's unfortunate that I have to wrangle people into doing this with me to actually have these take place. I'm a deep motherfucker. When I've done therapy, the therapist they've identified me, and I don't know about coining this term. They say like sometimes you have anxiety, depression, whatever, some of that stuff we work through, but like ultimately, Steve, you're a deep thinker.
Yeah,
you're a deep thinker, and not everybody is a deep thinker. And that's an okay thing as well. So like people who want to just live on the surface, that's an okay thing. That's a giddy up. I would suggest that maybe life is a little bit better, or there's more to it, and it can be more robust if you do go a little bit deeper. Yeah. But do you for sure? Yeah. But in this, I've found it more challenging to have these conversations. So I'm trying to create space for that, and in hopes that me having these conversations will realize like, oh, we can all have these conversations, and we can all get to this point of comfortability with each other where we can truly learn.
Yeah. That's how you learn from people. Like having conversations with them and like truly listening to their point of view and sitting there and chewing on it and being like, all right, yeah, like I can get on board with that. Or, you know what? No, that just strengthens like what I already think. And either one's fine, but you don't get that if you're constantly like.
Yeah, right. If you're not even thinking, you're not thinking for yourself, and like the next, you're just immediately wanting to get on your phone so you can, and everybody, I'm saying this because it happens to me, 100%. It happens to me. I do this, where I'm thinking about something I need to be focused on, then next thing I know, my phone's in my hand, I'm on Instagram. I'm like, why? Why did that just happen? Okay,
wacky.
It's wacky.
Like I put my phone out, like my phone's on Do Not Disturb now. And I do that a lot because it doesn't like push through text and stuff. But, still when you open it up, you can see like who's called you or messaged you or whatever. And like, I've noticed that like when I get home and work's done for the day and I like just power down my phone, I literally feel my body like exhale. It's like, that even if you do that little like tap thing that we all do to see like what messages are on there, like even if you tap it, like the screen's black. And then for me, at least, like every day that I do that, it's like, okay, I can just be.
Yeah. That's the thing is I think like, they might look back on it. Things could get really fucked up. We could evolve really quickly somehow, and like we could figure out how to do this stuff, whatever, and deal with all of it. Sure, I don't know, but I think that it's gonna come to a point where it's like that's gonna be a thing where and I think it's happening more and more where people always say, "Dude, it's time to put down the phones." Yeah. And I know they do it with kids, like they say, like you get this much screen time or whatever, but it's like with Emmett, like he's I'm gonna get this. I don't want to hold him back because technology is a real thing, and I think that's challenging as a parent. But at the same time, it's like you need to experience nature, you need to get outside and you need to live. And like, that's what's going to make you feel really good, being in the sun. Like
live your life, but not through a screen.
Yeah.
Live it through your eyes. I had some kids that came in, must have been, gosh, I don't know, maybe like middle school age. And they came in, I taught them a yoga practice, and they were on kind of like a mini retreat with some leaders for a week. They're really lovely. And they don't have phones. So at the beginning of the week, the phones get taken away from them. They get powered down. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, that's a really cool experiment. I was like, how has that been for you ladies? Like, how is it not having your phone around? Like, do you miss it? And one of them was like, I'm getting rid of it after this. And I was like, what? Not even kidding you. This kid was like 12. I wish I had written it down, but it was something to the line of like, do you know how much you can live your life if you're not looking at a phone? And I was like, slow clap, kid, slow clap. Like, great job. Yeah.
This was a young woman?
Yeah, she was like 12. Do you know how much you can live your life if you're not looking at a phone? I was like,
let's go.
Cool. Yeah. She's like, I'm not going to take it back. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I do think the pendulum's kind of swing. I feel like the kids in that age group are a little bit more like, I don't need this. I don't need this.
Yeah. That's the whole thing is like, I think that they're just like any, we grew up and, you grew up and we all grew up in these times. And like, we had this, we saw the world and we were going to make it better. Right. Yeah. And like, we saw what was wrong with us. They probably see us walking all around and like, that's what they are. It's exactly like, and maybe some of them are like that too.
course.
And that's a super unfortunate. I hope that we're making it so that making space so these kids can get together and can. But like I couldn't, all I want to do is be with my friends. In high school, like all I want to do is be with my friends 24/7, just hanging out, doing stuff, trying to figure out fun things to do together, like exploring life.
Exploring life. That's the thing. I get so nervous that kids aren't going to like explore the world. I'm like, there is so much more than like filters and memes and whatever else is on there. I'm like, go outside and like look around and like put your hands in the dirt and climb a tree and live. Yeah.
It's like I think that's we gotta help them. We just gotta it's great that you're having people like that coming in and doing retreats, and I definitely want to create that I want to do that like at scale somehow, where I can, and that's where technology I think can be helpful if it's done in the right way and it's being shepherded by the right people.
Yep.
Which I think a lot of the time that's not the case. Yeah, of course. And so and that's what's hurt people.
Yeah.
So I just, using it to create a community where people and young men, young women can really be who they are and figure out who they are.
Yeah.
And that be an okay thing, and not just be, wrapped up in this phone. I think that the number, like I said, I don't know if everything I see is true or not either, but this one study that I came across said the most sought after job from young kids right now is become an influencer.
Right?
Yeah, that's what they want to become, more than anything is an Instagram or.
I don't know what an influencer is.
Well, I just
I get what that means.
Well, I think it's just.
It's are they paid to do that? All right.
So it's like a mannequin that exists in real life.
Yeah, it's sales, I think.
Yeah.
And I think you get for bringing attraction or for promoting products, people will pay you. Hey, if you have this many followers on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, we're gonna send you a $20,000 deal for you to promote our products.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes.
That's sad that's kids' number one job.
Yeah.
Firefighter, space cowboy, or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Right, firefighter. Right, exactly. Right. No, 100%. Maybe a professional athlete or something. Or a lawyer, a doctor. These are other things. I don't. I think there's probably kids that still want to be these things. So, I think. Yeah, fingers crossed. I gotta get engaged with them a little bit more, with the kids. I gotta figure out a program where I can have it, have an impact, whether I'm just going talking at schools or just meet up with a group of young kids just to share my experience with them and tell them what I think is good about life. Or just try to have them listen to the show.
Yeah.
That's we talk about it a lot. I know some of the topics that we talk about, we talk about cannabis a lot. We talk about psychedelics a lot, and that's definitely something that I'm not ever think is good for children. Anybody under 25, sure, there's times where you can experiment and do certain things, and under professional of older, your supervised people, sure, experiment, do your thing, but don't make it a thing that you're consistently doing before that. Your brains are growing, and that's a giddy up, and so there's a ton of stuff that we talk about, but I also want to make this a place where kids can come and they can become know that the adults who are around them are trying. They're trying to figure out how to become better people and how to try to make it a better world for them, and they're absolutely a part of it as well. We got to get them to come on some retreats.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That'd be a cool idea. Begin to market retreats for tweens or young kids. That's something I've never done before.
Yeah. Well, this Alanoba place seems is that what's called Alanoba?
Alnoba.
Alnoba.
Yeah, ALNOBA.
Alnoba.
It's so beautiful.
So yeah, just what's that retreat like? So the offerings. So that's something obviously I think is super realistic for people who are around here.
Yeah.
You do it 4 times a year.
Yep.
What does that look like?
So we do it kind of at every season change, and it's a really quick. It's a Friday afternoon to Sunday morning. So as people come in, they get so the whole kind of kit and caboodle is get in there Friday night. We get all settled in. We practice together. And then we do everything kind of in community, but with options. So I'm always if you're I need a hot second to myself, we don't need to be holding hands and doing everything all together. But we have a wonderful chef that comes in. She's such I hate to say it, but the amount. So we've done this 4 times already. 5th one's coming up. And the amount of people that have gone on it, and they're you need to remarket this as a foodie retreat with yoga. So our chef is fantastic. She cooks fantastic food. So then we eat together Friday night.
Healthy ass make you feel good for this.
So, and the amount of people that are oh my gosh, if I just knew how to do stuff like this, that I would fuel my body better. And that's one of the things that I love about it. People get to see cooking healthy, can be delicious, It can be easy and it's super accessible. Like you don't have to be some sort of like 5-star chef to make these creations happen. So we get together, we eat, and then after we have like fun times on Friday night. So sometimes we've made malas together. We play games. In the winter, we had like big fires and, just kind of played card games and stuff like that. Saturday morning, we wake up. We just do kind of like light food for people that are interested in eating before practice. Then we practice together, walk back to the houses, do like a big brunch. For the afternoon, a couple times we've had speakers come in. We had a woman, she does kind of like mindfulness in nature. So we had her come in last time and take people through like a nature walk. The afternoon is kind of open. And then same thing in the evening, practice, optional, of course. Walk back, enjoy dinner together, and then kind of like a rinse and repeat of Friday night. So like hang time, like make bracelets, play games. Like it's just connection. It's like nobody has a phone out all weekend. I mean, you can but nobody does. It's so nice. And then Sunday morning, get up, do a little practice, do like a big kind of community brunch again, and then send everybody on their way for the afternoon on Sunday. So it's so sweet. It's lovely.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you provide food and lodging and yoga.
Yep. So everything. So it's what did I figure? It's 5 meals, 4 yoga classes, 3 days and 2 nights. So that's how I kind of remember. And it's all included. Like it's, people pay before they come and you literally don't need to bring a wallet. Everything's there.
Okay.
And the space is beautiful. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so cool. What is that? What will that run?
Let me think. So we do $7.99, but if you've come with us before, I always give people a $100 discount. So cool. If you've come on any one of them, it's $6.99. So when you think about it, for all of that food, all of that yoga, the 2 nights accommodation, it's really it.
Yeah, people will pay in 20 minutes from Portsmouth. Find me a hotel in 20 minutes from Portsmouth that's like under
$300 a night.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly. So it's like you get to go there, you get to eat. You get yoga, you have community. I think that's a really good deal.
And honestly, it's one of those things. This is where I potentially fall flat as a business owner. It's like, it's not something that we really do to make money. Like those little ones that we do locally are really just for community. It always ends up being people that practice at the studio. And then the next time they're in class and they're together, like they have that different connection. It's like you can look at the person on the mat across from you and then be like, oh, hey, we had that great weekend in El Nova together. And, one of the pillars of what I want at the studio is community. I think it's so important. And that's just one of the ways that we build it.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. Like giving people that space, like you said, making them comfortable, making them feel good in their body so that they can make those connections. And then the next time they see each other and they're like, oh, hey, what's up?
It's so cute. Like anytime you take people on retreat and then they're all in class together, it is so sweet. It's so sweet.
You can tell. The energy is different.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Now when you're going there, are you teaching like all vinyasa classes, or is it a mix?
Oh, at El Nova?
Yeah.
So in the mornings we do kind of a vinyasa practice, so a little bit more heated, or not heated, but like a little bit more of like a flow vinyasa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then in the evenings we either do like a yoga nidra or a restorative or a yin. So like in the evening practices, we kind of like take it down a little bit, and that's kind of how I do it on international retreat too. Like in the morning, it's like we get up and go and like move bodies. And then in the evening, we get into, typically a little like more esoteric practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun.
Yeah, it's amazing. People's bodies must just feel so good afterwards. And it like shows them too. Like if you do it most people can't give themselves 2 days to actually do something like that. So you give them the 2 days and then they're able to take those 2 days and say, oh, hell, I can do this even more. I can take 2 days and turn it into 4 days. And and then also I actually know I need this, so I need to do this and find this time and space for myself. Maybe it's not at El Nova next time. Maybe it's somewhere else, that I've decided on my own, or maybe it is at El Nova again because you're providing it every season.
Yeah, and that's that's the thing. I think people just kind of like once they feel like how good it feels to like eat good food, to hydrate, to move your body, you're like, oh, all right, this isn't an option. Like I should be doing this every day. And like I feel like if it seems like a lot sometimes. I think like, oh, I don't have an hour to myself. I'm super busy. I have kids. I have family. I have whatever. But like, if you take out all the time that you spend like doing things that like maybe you don't need to do, like you can probably carve an hour out of your day every few days. Take care of yourself.
Yeah. Schedule your priorities.
Bingo.
Yeah. I love it. You have to. And with this one, this is like this is people need to like, I'm the biggest like culprit of this, that I sometimes I don't give myself the space and the time, and then when I do, I'm like, oh holy shit, and I get really back into it. I'm like, I need to give myself that space and the time. I need to, sometimes if I go to the gym and I'm getting ready to pump some iron and lift weights, and I'll say, oh no, wait, I actually don't need that today. Like that's because I'm stressed out. I need to actually just go sit in the sauna for an hour and meditate.
Obsessed with sauna.
It's really good, isn't it?
Oh, I recently joined a gym just for the sauna.
Yeah, I've been joining gyms just for the sauna for like the last 4 gyms I've been at.
Yeah.
Like I call them like, hey, what's good with the sauna situation? What's good with the steam room situation? Like, can you get me heat?
I just did this like a couple weeks ago, and the lady was so sweet. Like I went and checked in, and she's like, oh, do you want me to show you around? I was like, I'm honestly not going to work out. And she's like, well, what do you want to come here for? I was like, the sauna. I go to the sauna like 4 or 5 times a week. 20 minutes. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it really is amazing. So it's so funny. It's like another intuitive thing that I've always known since I was a kid. I always used to love it. But then like sometimes people would say like it was bad for you, or like there's like, that you have to be careful. And you do have to like be careful if like you have like, some, comorbidities or something that's, it's some stuff that's, might, you have really, really high blood pressure or something. You like maybe you could worry about it. Or you have a previous stroke, like maybe. But like a young, healthy person, like get in there and do your thing. Like you're actually going to decrease your morbidity and mortality by like 50% from cardiovascular risk.
It's crazy. I call it my cardio. Like I'm like, I will never like get up and run. I don't really do anything fast. But like you get in there, and I was reading about how much it mimics the same cardiovascular effects of like running or, whatever it is, the ellipticals or whatever people do. And I'm like, oh, well, I can get on board with that.
I get on board with that. Now, what do you do though? Do you listen to music? You listen to podcasts? Or you just get in there silent? Good.
Just quiet.
Good.
Like just close my eyes and I'm just quiet.
Yeah. So this is the tough. This is a little tough. Again, because that's the time where Steve wants to be Steve.
Yeah.
And he wants to just, have his alone time, but everyone likes to talk to Steve. So sometimes, it's like when I'm in there, and so sometimes I'm in a conundrum where sometimes I'd love to talk to people, and I want to talk to them in there, but sometimes I want to sit there and I bring I'm wild. I bring my foam roller in there. I bring like, this thing I call the weapon. It's like this.
Is it that hook thing?
Yeah.
We had that in there the other day. I was like, what is she doing? She had this like big hook, and she was like,
oh, I have that thing as well. But this thing is it's almost like a roller. And I step on it with my feet, and I'll lay on it on my back, and like it's just a myofascial release type of deal.
Oh yeah, that's so good for your body.
Oh, it's the absolute best.
I really want to go sauna.
Yeah, maybe you can
Maybe after class tonight.
Yeah, after class tonight, you can jump in there and get in there.
Yeah,
might be good for you.
My foam roller for this neck because I'm moving like a Frankenstein today.
Yeah, you're saying that you slept weird.
Funny. I just like went to bed and just did. I was so tired. I think I laid down like.
Oh, you're a belly sleeper.
Not typically.
Okay.
I was literally that tired. I got into bed last night. It was like 8:30 or 9, and it was just like.
Yeah.
And I don't think I moved till 5:30.
Oh, I love it.
Right?
Yeah, I love days like that. Though sometimes it's like you need that.
I was like, I did it. I was like, here we are.
Move your body, and then you're just like, oh wow, that was 9 hours where it's like I just didn't even get up or didn't blink at all. It's so good for you. You feel nice and refreshed and energized.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's so good. So we've been at it for quite a bit now. I love having you on the show today.
Thank you.
I think that it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Not to put you on the
I was like, rats, I wish I had something cool, but
well, the thing is we've talked about so much cool stuff and like yoga. Like I guess we can end on like let's just talk about like I guess the mission of Three Bridges going forward.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Way to make me think. Really, like I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and it comes back to what I was talking about earlier is community. Like as much as sure, like the foundation of what we do there is yoga and all that, but I think the more and more we can connect people with other people in ways that are either subtle, like just like smiling nicely at somebody next to you, or like, even you see somebody in class and then you see them in the coffee shop and like you might wave and be nice. Like, I think the more and more we can make those connections and that recognition that like, you think about like everybody as like this little like individual thing. And then like when we cross over like this, like you're stronger, you know what I mean? Like you don't like, if you're thinking about like weaving something, like you don't weave it like this, like this is how you come together. So that's kind of what I'm seeing for the future. More and more connection.
Yeah, it's so cool. And you're doing that through the retreats, through the teacher training, and through just having people come in the classes every day.
Yeah.
It's like, like every yoga studio has that feeling of community, of course, and stuff. It's as but like when I love to come to your studio. Like I hadn't been there in some time, since the last time I took a class with you, and then just like getting back in there this morning with you is just like immediately back into the comfortability of where my journey started with the person that I started it with. Like it was just like, oh, holy shit, man, this is like, full circle to the point where I'm now. I do a podcast where one of like the major tenets is movement. That's how important it was. And I wasn't a person who moved before. For a while, I stopped moving. I got really, really sick. And then I started doing it again. And like you created that, and also like you did create connections for me. I still have friends that that I met there that I text and talk to all the time, and I hang out with, and I go and see and make an effort to be with, and like that's what we need to do, is just continue to make create community. And I think that's kind of what the show is all about. That's what I say. It's about helping individuals, the community and society as a whole be well.
That's awesome. You're doing it.
Yeah, well,
you're doing it.
I'm trying my best. Because that's all we can do, right?
Exactly.
That's it. We can only just try our best.
Exactly.
It was just incredible to have you on the show today. I want everyone to where can people find you?
Like on the website?
On the website, or
it's going to be a new one coming out, so it's going to be beautiful.
Okay.
bridgesyoga.com. Come in and see us.
Instagram, 3 Bridges Yoga.
We got Instagram. We have Facebook. We have all the things.
Okay, awesome.
Except for Twitter. I don't still understand that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
You have the rest.
Come check us out.
Hell yeah. Come check it out. Make sure if you're in the Seacoast, if you're not in the Seacoast, if you're coming up for just to visit, like you got to get to 3 Bridges because it's a really, really special place. And it's comfortable. And, even if it's your first time or if it's your 100th time taking yoga, 1,000th time taking a yoga class, like just make the effort to get in there because Steph is really, creating a beautiful space for people to connect. And I just want to thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, you're
an absolute delight to chat with you.
You know it. You're an amazing, amazing person. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you guys so much for listening to the show. Definitely reach out to Steph if you have any questions about yoga. Get 3 Bridges Yoga or at 3 Bridges Yoga on Instagram. I thank you guys so much time for spending this, this time with us. Will you come back? Will you be a repeat guest?
I would love to.
Okay. How about maybe I'll come and do an El Novo retreat with you, and then we can talk about that after doing the retreat.
I love that.
Yeah, that's going to be wonderful.
Sold.
Awesome. Well, Steph is the coolest person, guys. Thank you so much. Be well, all.